Hi there, welcome back to the archive. So I'm just gonna really, um, I'm already done my, I recorded, today is November 7th. It's Friday, November 7th, TGIF. I wanted to, this is an impromptu one. I thought I would just do it because earlier on this morning, I had trauma, a trigger. Something for the first time, I went out today early in the morning and I was drinking some tea, and I brought this with me, and I haven't brought this with me out on the road for a really long time. It's been years since I used this out, like, for tea outside. And as I was walking, I started to smell apple juice. Not just any apple juice. It was apple juice from a particular incident when I was in middle school, and my apple juice spilled in my bag and it ruined one of my favorite books at the time, which is what I'm gonna do a book share now. But that's what happened this morning. As I was walking, I was holding this. It kind of looked like the apple juice. It kind of looked like my lunch box. Remember the water bottles back in the days, that the sippy cups that you could put in your as like a lunch box, right? It wasn't in my lunch box. It was just out in my actual backpack. But it was the ones that, the plastic ones. You open it, and then it had the little thing you could start sipping through the straw. I had one of those when I was in grade school. I think it was in grade 4 or grade 5, maybe grade 6. I'm not sure. But it spilled in my book bag, and it got all over a book I was reading at the time, which was Anne Frank. So since I had that memory today, I thought I would share Anne Frank. So this is my copy, the story of Anne Frank, the forward by Rabbi Hugo Grin, and it's written by Mirjam Pressler. So not to platform like Zionist, but I wanted to just share the book of Anne Frank since this memory came up literally this morning, because this moment traumatized me. It was like, and not to do lower T trauma when you're talking about like actual trauma, right? Like the Holocaust. But I will never forget it. And it is something that I still smell, the smell of apple juice, and it takes me back there. And then I remember I was crying. I felt so helpless. That was the feeling I was feeling this morning before I went. And I'm wondering if it had to do with what I was gonna do when I was like when that trigger came. But I remember feeling so helpless, feeling like I don't want this apple juice to be on my book anymore. I don't want my book to be like this. I don't, because it damaged it, right? It damaged it. You could tell it was apple juice because you could see like it's a different kind of color. It wasn't just water. It was apple juice. I'll never forget it. I spilled my apple juice. Well, I didn't spill it. It opened in my bag, and it damaged my Anne Frank book, which I still kept after all these years because it was literally one of my favorite books. Like I talking about one of the I just recorded a Butsu from Japan. She was a poet, and she also wrote diaries. She's well known for her diaries. So was Lady Murasaki, right? And so reading about folks leaving journals and making history. This was one of those books, right? The story of Anne Frank. So the back says, I want to go on living after my death, and therefore I am grateful to God for giving me this gift of expressing all that is in me. When 14-year-old Anne Frank wrote these words in her diary, she could never have imagined how poignantly they would come true, that the story of her tragically brief life would become one of the most enduring to emerge from the Second World War. The story of Anne Frank introduces us to the real girl who lies behind the famous diary. Here are new insights into Anne Frank's early life, her relationships, and the Frank family's harrowing 2 years spent hiding from the Nazis in Amsterdam's secret annex. Here, too, are the terrible facts that lie beyond the end of the diary. Anne's imprisonment in Auschwitz, followed by her death in Bergen-Belsen. This fascinating book brings to life the world of Anne Frank and her diary, one of the best loved books of all time. So this was my copy. Again, I read this in middle school, I think it was. It has my mom's, this is my mom's copy. It has, that's my mom's signature from back in the days. Um, yeah, this was essentially my book. And I was so upset. I was so, I'll never forget how upset I was when I opened my bag and saw that the juice had spilled all over. So inside it had some pictures. Um, oh my God, I never forget it. I felt so powerless. Um, yeah, so I thought I would share that today because that was a random trigger that came up. It brought up this moment of when the first time I opened my bag and I saw that the juice had spilled all over my book, and I just started crying because it damaged the book. Even still, I laid it out. I tried to like dry it. It's still, but I still kept it. Speaking of which, I saw that I have some pages, page 110 open. I don't know what's on page 110. I'll do that really quickly before I end this. What is this? Enough for him to be pressed together. Oh, yeah, see, I was going through, this is at the time where I was starting to make sense of some experiences in my own life. So, Peter. Anne and Peter progressed to a form of petting, not the direct, full variety, in spite of arousal on both sides. They would have been too bashful for that. It was probably enough for him to have pressed close to her and for her that he may have touched her briefly. But in any cause, I am assuming that Anne experienced an orgasm physically, not just in her imagination, or she would have phrased differently the entry on 28th April 1944, on which my assumption is based. Anne is in a state of great physical and mental excitement that evening. They had been sitting on the divans in each other's arms, and suddenly the everyday Anne split away, and the second Anne took her place. The second Anne, who's never overconfident and amusing, but wants only to love and be gentle. I sat pressed against him and felt a wave of emotion come over me. Tears rushed to my eyes. At 8:30, I stood up and went to the window. I was still trembling. I was still Anne number two. In a daze, we embraced over and over and over, never to stop. Oh, the same entry also contains the following passage, which hardly conceals what kind of excitement it was that Anne felt so shattered. Is it right for me to yield so soon, for me to be so passionate, to be filled with so much passion and desire as Peter? Can I, a girl, allow myself to go that far? Every night after our last kiss, I feel like running away and never running to him in the eyes again, and never looking him in the eyes again, away, far away, into the darkness and alone. My heart is still so tender to be able to recover so quickly from a shock like the one I had last night. And what's on page, oh my God, I have to be so delicate with this because it's all falling apart. What's on page 112? I also have it there. The change she had felt in herself went too far for her. Her emotions and longings had overwhelmed her. She feared for the independence and self-control to which she clung at that difficult time. The relationship was initiated by Anne, determined by Anne, experienced by Anne, but at the peak of her emotion she felt doubt rising in her, and other claims making themselves heard. In her entry of April 28th, 1944, she wonders whether she would marry Peter if she were older, and if she answers the question honestly in the negative. He has too little character, she says, too little willpower. All he wants is happiness and peace of mind. Although she was younger in age, she was surely more mature than Peter, and in such case much stronger. Where did she get that extraordinary certainty, that awareness of her value? She knew who she was, and what she wanted to be, and what she could be. Her truly heroic struggle to reconcile her emotional and sexual needs and her intellectual requirements with reality is one of the finest things I have ever read about such a young girl. So, remember my limerence post? When I was talking about how I'm like a limerence girly and like I fall for people. This was also around the same time I had my first limerence crush. For sure, I remember that. So that probably has a lot to do with it as well too. I was probably like, oh, I'm also in love. But as I wanted to share it, just it came up today, and I thought I would share it. The story of Anne Frank and how my apple juice came to damage it and just make me feel so powerless. I just because you can't do anything. You can't do anything. It's like the library books. Like I got one of the library books I got water damage on, and you can't like it's done. What's done is done. Like what am I gonna do? You can't dry it. It's done. Once the juice gets on it, it's done. So yes, this is the story of Anne Frank. I thought I would share it today because I had this a moment that brought me to this. So, anyways, until next time. I also it's interesting because last night I saw on CBC Gem I peeked at the assembly and it was Howie Mandel. So it's interesting because I've also been thinking last night and this morning. I wonder if it has to do with. I was thinking about Canadian Jewish folks like Howie Mandel because I saw him last night in the assembly, and I've just been thinking about like Zionism and everything that's going on right now. And so I wonder if that also had anything to do with it. But yeah, that was I smelled apple juice, and it'll happen sometimes. Where I'll smell apple juice, and it'll always bring me back to Anne Frank because that was one of the days I damaged my book. So until next time, in solidarity.